So I wanted to create a video in honor of my cousin Stevie. Recently, yesterday, no, it was the day before. No, it was yesterday. Um, we were informed that he had been taken to the hospital because I think it was his BP levels that were low. And I mean, just to let you know, he had a stroke not too long ago, and he lost the ability to be able to eat. So he's going to be fed through his stomach. And so the doctor left a message on my phone wanted to ask like questions like what if. And so my mother informed me that um, do we want him put on life support if it comes to that? I said yeah. And so I got to thinking about Stevie, and he just to let you know, he was a kind man. I mean, the last time I saw him, he was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. And for the longest time, he had lived in a trailer and no heat. I don't know how he did it. He did that for years. And you may ask, well, why was he in a place like that? Well, he got into some trouble years ago. And he more or less lived off the grid. And, of course, those charges were dropped. And so he was put into a hospital for some time after living in that trailer. And then he was sent into a nursing home type setting. I guess it was assisted living. And he seemed to be fine. He gained weight. And like I had said, he was in a wheelchair. He couldn't really walk. But I remember seeing him. He had a big beard. And he was happy to see us. And so that was the last I seen him. And then recently after that, he had a stroke. He lost the ability to speak. Now they're saying that he has, I guess, dementia. And my mother said she saw him and she about busted out crying. I guess he lost so much weight. And he had bed sores in which he can't turn around in bed. And it's hard imagining to see him in that because I've never seen him in that position before. I remember the earliest memory I have of him was when I came to visit my Aunt Doris, who lived in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And my mother and I took a plane out to visit her in Maryland. I think we lived in Florida, either Florida or Massachusetts. So we went to visit her, and I remember when we got out of the plane, it was hot. And so we went to stay with my Aunt Doris for a few days. And my cousin Stevie was in the same place as her. He was, I guess, shacking up with this woman in there, older woman. My Aunt Doris's friend. And so Anita, whom he was shacking up with, made us a bunch of cookies. And eventually my mother and her got into it because of Stevie. And so I guess they were at odds. I remember there was just an argument between them. And so Anita's talking and my mother interjects, I guess to verify or confirm whatever story Anita was telling. And Anita's like, well, I guess I can't talk around here. And my mother's like, well, go ahead. I don't care. And so my mother gets up and she's like, when was it you said you were leaving? Today? And Anita responds, "I'll leave when I'm good and ready, you bit." And I just remember my mother crying after that because she's not the kind of person that wants to be in a confrontation with anybody. She's not like that. And so I think Anita, took it over the line. I mean, she shouldn't have reacted that way. And so that was that whole issue. But I remember when we moved down into Maryland. Well, actually, I don't know if it was then or after. But one of the times that I went to visit my Aunt Doris, I used to do that some weekends. When we lived in Frederick, Maryland, and my Aunt Doris was still in Upper Marlboro. So I used to, I think, visit her almost every weekend and would stay with her and then, of course, be back to school on Monday. But I remember Stevie being there, and we used to ride everywhere together. We used to, visit my Uncle Charles and his wife, Sonny, in Thurmont, Maryland. And I remember going to Catoctin Furnace, which I think it was a place in the Civil War that I guess made artillery or forged artillery or whatever it was. So we went to visit that, and there was a picture that we took, and I was pretending to be my Uncle Freddie, who always drank. And I remember that picture being taken. Stevie was next to his mother, Aunt Doris, and my mother was, I think, taking the picture. My Aunt Doris is looking at me while I'm holding it like a fake, a beer up, pretending I was drunk. And Aunt Doris is looking at me like, "You're crazy." And so I remember another time where Stevie was drunk, and he took me to this go-go bar. I remember the name was Three Captains Go-Go Bar. I think it was in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, or Gaithersburg. And of course, I was a teenager, and they didn't let me in because I wasn't 21, I believe. And they wouldn't let him in because he was drunk. But I remember going in there with him, and there was a couple ladies on stage, but I think they were fully dressed. And so they booted us out of there. So that's one of the other times. Another time, I remember when Stevie was there, he would always, when he had his guitar, he would always sing country songs while he was drunk. And it would be Willie Nelson, I guess some Hank Williams, Gene Watson. And he used to stay up late until 2 or 3 to watch movies. And then he would sleep all day. And so I couldn't keep his hours at all. I would have to go to bed. And so it was it was funny. I enjoyed singing with him. Of course I can't sing, but I used to enjoy singing like Hank Williams. And I remember another time where, when I learned to play the piano, I would have this Hank Williams book. And there was a picture that somebody had took. I think it was my friend Carrie that took a picture of me playing the piano. Stevie was behind me drunk. And our friend Clarence was next to him. And Stevie had his hands on my shoulders singing. And another time, I would play this Hank Williams tune, and according to the setup of it, the way the sheet music was, it was Mozart type Hank Williams notes. So Stevie got a kick out of that. There was another time I played a not Hank Williams, but Keith Green song. And I think it was the Prodigal Son Suite. So I played that, and of course I can't sing. But while I was playing it, I noticed Stevie was crying. So he had a good heart. And another time, I told Stevie about this and he laughed. And our friend Clarence, he had an issue, I guess, with his brain. I don't want to say he was retarded. He wasn't retarded at all. But he didn't have the full brain capacity. But I remember one time we went into a Chinese food restaurant and I asked him to order what his wife wanted. She always ordered like shrimp tempura and some other stuff. And so he wanted to know the name of it. And I told him to call it crab sheet. And so he got up to the counter, was talking to the Chinese person. He said, yeah, I'd like to order a couple of orders of crab sheet. I remember when he said that, I ran out of that place laughing. And Clarence is like, I'm going to get you. So I told Steve that. He laughed. There's a time where, of course, Clarence didn't have much hair on the top of his head. And the wind blew it, his hair, like he had a few hairs that went like that. So Stevie would be like, and blow those hairs into place. But Stevie and Clarence used to get drunk together and stuff like that. But those were some good times. I think I did lead him into saying the sinner's prayer to accept Jesus. So I'm praying that he did. But I'm just praying full healing over him right now, that he would be restored back to the way he used to be. He was a kind man. It would just be nice to be able to hang out with him again and sing. So I just wanted to share that with you. He was a real kind man. So thank you for taking the time to watch.